Dear parishioners, people of goodwill and parents, we come today to August 15th, a very special day in the history of the church for hundreds of years. We have acknowledged the importance of Mary, and we realise through the church that she assumed into heaven straight away without the need for decay in the ground. We call it the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into Heaven, August the 15th. Very special day, and it's a very special day for our world, as today is August the 15th is the end of the Second World War, a world where there was great violence throughout that 4 or 5 year period, and great happiness for the end of that war itself, as we in our world need peace rather than war. Now on to the Gospel of the 20th year A of Jesus who brings peace and happiness to our world. A woman begs Jesus for help for her mentally disturbed daughter. But Jesus does not seem to care, and even to our way of thinking seems to insult her when he says it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the house dogs. Maybe we'll never understand fully the Middle Eastern mindset of seemingly jabbing each other to and fro and hoping then that a greater relationship is formed through that interplay, like the interplay between Jesus and this woman who comes to value Jesus, and vice versa. She comes to value him even more by the end. Let's try to at least go halfway to solve the dilemma of Jesus seemingly showing no real empathy to this pleading woman's desirable request for her mentally disturbed daughter. Firstly, though, we need to understand that Matthew's Gospel, the subject of our readings this year mainly for Year A, is a Gospel written for primarily Jewish converts facing the rapid expansion of the Jewish movement into foreign lands, Gentiles, as they were called, sort of thought of as inferior to the Jews, well, at least by the Jews, they were inferior. Thus, this particular Gospel of Matthew was written some 50 to 60 years after Jesus had died. It emerged from a community of believers struggling to deal with two major concerns. Firstly, the role of those Gentiles or foreigners, people of different ethnic and cultural background. What should we do with these people? The early Christians of Matthew's community were saying. How should we behave towards them? Like how should we deal with South Sudanese today, as many come from a very tribal people into a semi-sophisticated society, we would call in Australia. Now, on to the second concern of Matthew's fledgling Christian community. Women. What should be the role of women in the early church community? I suppose that sounds familiar. How to deal with foreigners has always been a challenge, but for the church and church communities generally, the role of women is an ever-rearing conundrum. Shouldn't we make women more responsible in all leadership positions? Shouldn't we make women deacons in the church itself these days, as the diaconate was present in the early church? Should women become priests of the Latin Rite, or even part of our other rites of the Catholic Church to come under papal authority? Good luck with all that. I don't have the answers. In some ways, these type of questions have dogged the church since its inception. Who is to be accepted? Who is to be rejected? Who is to be relegated to the back of the bus? Today's Gospel of Matthew tells the story of Jesus himself struggling with these very type of questions through an encounter with a woman, a very persistent foreign woman, a Syrophoenician, a Canaanite. At first, Jesus demonstrates how uncomfortable he is with her because she is not Jewish. She's part of another culture, another country, another religion. And so initially Jesus says to her, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Most everyone can identify with this point of view. We are uncomfortable, at least initially, with someone who's quite different from us. Jesus is depicted then in today's Gospel, reading in much the same way. But notice, one main distinction. It is the woman's faith that makes all of the difference and changes Jesus. Ultimately, it's not her persistence that transformed Jesus. Instead, it's his amazement at the depth of her love for her daughter and her recognition of the breadth of God's love as shown by Jesus. Faith and love, it's a combination that can break down all barriers. Our love builds up faith in God's promises, and our faith helps us to love. Jesus cured the daughter. Over and out again from Father Greg online.